What's going on there, guys? Good morning, good afternoon to some out there. It's the Earthmaster here on this finally Friday, December 2nd, 2022. It's about 11:07 a.m. here along the West Coast, and taking a look at the last 24 hours of earthquake activity shows a 1.9, the latest quake up into the Alaska area. All right, taking a look at the West Coast here. Seen some movement kicking up just outside the Long Valley supervolcano down here along the Owens Valley fault zone here. Just outside of Big Pine, seen a 3.9 earthquake earlier this morning, just a few hours ago. Also up north towards the volcanic area, this volcanic tableland area, seen a couple earthquakes pop up there as well. Looks like a 2.5 and a 2.6. Also some movement here just outside of the Long Valley caldera area. A couple small earthquakes there as well. So things kind of kicking up just a little bit across the eastern section here of the Sierra Nevada. Southern California region down south here, a little spotty today. Just some typical movement here along the San Jacinto fault zone and just off the Elsinore fault system as well. Some very small microquakes around the area. Today, also some movement off the coast of San Diego. Out here, a 2.8 out there in the Pacific Ocean. Up north into Northern California, gets even spottier. Some movement outside of the Quincy area. And also a pair of earthquakes here along the Cascadia megathrust area. Just down there about 30 kilometers or so below the surface, into the subduction zone, I should say. The Cascadia megathrust area with a pair of 2.4s kicking off earlier this morning. Pacific Northwest into the Washington area, a little spotty activity throughout the region today. Mount Rainier, seeing some small microquakes again around it. Also outside of the Yakima area, north of there, seeing a 2.0. So a little spotty movement up throughout the state of Washington. Over here around Yellowstone National Park, got some activity kicking up this morning, it looks like. And yesterday as well, a 2.5 coming in there. I know they didn't post these earthquakes last night during the update. They hadn't posted them yet, but it looks like they got to them this morning. A real quick glance here at Yellowstone National Park seismograph stations here shows that 2.5, followed up by a couple other small, very small earthquakes there over the last 24 hours. So that's going to be the ones listed up here on the map. Largest one, a 2.5. Not a major swarm going on, just a couple small earthquakes. But this has actually been ongoing here for a couple months, it seems like, with an on and off swarm there at Yellowstone. All right, let's see what else we got. Into the Utah area. Couple small earthquakes out there, nothing big. 1.8, the largest quake here, listed on the map from yesterday. And Texas, Oklahoma, portions of the south here, all fairly quiet except for Texas out here around Pecos. Things kicking back up there. It's been ongoing for quite a while, but got to remember this is there's some fault systems that do sit over here further to the west around the Delaware Mountains, but this activity appears to be within these fields here, these oil fields and fracking wastewater injection disposal areas. Quite a few of them. You can see the road networks here across the desert of Texas with some ponds. Those are some wastewater ponds, and lots of them out there. So earthquake activity continuing there in this area of Texas, and it will be for the foreseeable future. Around Arkansas, had that one earthquake here, 1.9, just about 3 o'clock in the morning, just outside the New Madrid seismic zone. Eastern portion of the country, pretty quiet after that. Around the Caribbean and northern South America region, all seeing a pretty good heightened activity of earthquake movement overnight and yesterday. The latest one shows a 4.6 here. Looks like that's just onshore of the Ecuador area, about 40 kilometers deep here into this portion of the Ecuador Trench, close to the Columbia Trench here, where they have been seeing a little bit of activity as well. Generally speaking here, this whole area has seen a pretty good uptick in movement. So watch the Caribbean plate here. This area does get moved around and squished and squeezed quite a bit. Puerto Rico area seen some good movement. Quite a few twos and whatnot over the last 24 hours. Kind of spread out, and also our swarming area continuing today on the southwestern portion of Puerto Rico. 4.2 off the coast of El Salvador, about 57 kilometers deep here into the Middle America Trench. So a little bit of adjustment going on there in that area. Quick look at the earthquake 3D globe kind of confirms that. Also down into the South America region here, things are kicking back up along the Pruchili Trench and southward. Quite a few 2s and 3s being listed up here on the map, or at least on the globe, not here on the map though. I gotta look for 4.0 and above for this area of the map, but definitely kicking up here in the smaller microquake department along that area of the plates. Into Alaska, quite a few earthquakes today. It looks like again around Trident Volcano. This thing's just been swarming for a little while. No major adjustments though, just kind of seen some earthquake activity. Also outside of Anchorage and up north into the Alaska range, all seen some activity light up today. The Aleutian Trench, the rest of it looks pretty quiet here. Along the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, seen some further activity this morning. East of the Kuril Islands, got a 4.4, very shallow earthquake up here at the subduction zone, and it's within our area that we need to watch for some potential large-scale movement. And I'm talking a lot higher than a 5 or a 6 for this area. This area has been very quiet in terms of any sufficient movement in quite some time. Off the coast there of Japan, looks like it's onshore there. 4.6, 61 kilometers deep. One coming in about 4 o'clock this morning. Filipino plate here looks pretty quiet on the USGS side. See what we got for the model here. It's looks like that's quiet as well. Listed up here, not a whole lot of swarming going on in that area. Up along the Java Trench and Indonesia area, all showing some 2s, 3s, and 4s as well. Some of those 4s being shown on the map here, including a 5.0 just after midnight in the Indonesia area. Down here along the Vanuatu area and further regions south, remaining somewhat active overnight. The latest quake shows a 4.8 along the Kermadec Trench, 38 kilometers deep. We are still seeing some activity out here around the Lake Taupo volcano. Nothing showing up here on the USGS map, but I did pull up the GeoNet servers and the drums showing the latest seismograph station here for Taupo, and that's still showing some activity over the last 24 hours. Localized activity here as well. This earthquake, I believe, is from last night. That was going to be the 5.1 that sits just north here, 168 kilometers deep. But it did show up regionally around the area, and specifically there on this Taupo seismograph drum. But as you can see, localized activity here is still continuing. May not be as intense as it has been the last couple days, but it's still part of an ongoing swarm there at the super volcano, and we'll definitely continue to monitor that. All right, let's see what else we have here. Nothing going on across the South Pacific Ocean. Of course, nothing being listed here. In the South Atlantic Ocean, got one earthquake here. 5.7 coming in about 4 o'clock this morning on the right smack dab on the plate boundary here. Of course, the train's got to come, right? The train's got to come every time I'm doing an update. That's all right. Let's see what else we have here. Iran, southern Iran, seen some activity yesterday. Nothing overnight, though. Seen some, it looks like a couple small 4s in that region. So areas to watch today, I think, with all this. Goodness. This train used to come by at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I get it. They have to blare their horns, because some people run over the railroad tracks and not even pay attention as to what's coming at them. But man, 5 o'clock in the morning was just a little bit too early to be woken up by a blaring horn. Yeah, so areas to watch here definitely around the Caribbean plate with the newer activity into some of the trenches. That region might show quite a bit of uptick here later on today. But overall, just broad area of activity today, it seems like. But we'll pay close attention to these zones that are seeing some seismic uptick around the Caribbean plate and definitely around the New Zealand area. Trimmer map from last night showed a little bit of uptick here along the about the northern section of the Cascadia subduction zone. 34 epicenters there yesterday. And we'll check out Mount Rainier, considering it's having a little bit of activity up there listed on the map. We'll see what we have for the latest earthquake activity here listed on the seismograph viewer. And there's our typical reading that goes off. It seems like every 12 hours or so something clicks on, makes an interference pattern there on the seismograph. But yeah, there's definitely still some earthquake activity. A lot of these I'm starting to believe are associated with ice quakes. These are very thin, very well defined signatures of something that would resemble ice quakes. There's obviously a lot of snow up there now. They've been having quite a few storm systems roll through up there into Washington, and a lot of times in Yellowstone we'll see this activity kind of pop up very thin, so it's kind of hard to decipher the earthquake activity from ice quakes. But looks like there may be the larger ones are obviously going to be some earthquakes, but looks like there may be a couple of the larger signals, but I'm starting to believe some of those are ice quakes there at Mount Rainier. All right, let's check out the solar ham site. Do have some activity kind of ramping up here. Do have a major solar region, solar sunspot activity named 3153. Looks like there's been a couple named here since last night's update. We now have 3153, 3154, and 3155, and soon to be 56 and 57 here around the bend. Things are starting to get very active across this region of the sun. We go from being, very minimal to the sunspots just blowing up. In fact, these ones right here, 3153, is a former sunspot, that large sunspot that we've seen here quite a few days back now, but it's still holding together pretty nicely. 3153 down here, even though it's newly named, is huge and massive, and this might be an area to watch pretty closely. And it is, once it gets around to the center portion here of the sun, that will definitely be geo-effective if any CMEs were to blast off from that thing. So we'll watch that area. Also overnight, looks like a couple new sunspots have amplified slightly. This one down here and this one up here and this one down here look a little bit more dynamic. And the northeastern limb sun, or northeastern section of the sun here, shows this ginormous sunspot as well, looking pretty active. So I'm going to pay close attention here to the risk of some possible higher flares in the coming days. It's a lot more active than what we've seen here recently. Looks like overall threat is increasing. 60% chance for a C flare, 15% chance for an M flare, X flare around 5% chance. And the last almost had an M flare here overnight, it looks like, or late last night. Right now we're just kind of hovering around the C flare category, but I expect that to change here pretty rapidly with the sunspots that are turning into view. We also have a large coronal hole, 53, This one here looks about the same, or if not bigger, than our previous coronal hole. That's provided some storming conditions up there at the higher latitudes as far as the auroras go. This one's directly facing Earth. Far as the lineup goes across the disk of the sun, got a couple, another day or so before it's positioned center, facing us, and then a day or so afterwards we'll see the effects of that coronal hole, and then not to mention all the sunspot activity. So we could be entering into a pretty active next couple weeks here of solar weather activity. Definitely watch everything here with what's going on. Current conditions there across the board show somewhat slightly elevated on the KP index. Looking at unsettled conditions here over the next couple days until we see a the coronal hole or a CME in our area, pending any of these. Want to blast off any, but I keep hearing like jets or something. Kind of weird. I really haven't heard too many commercial airliners, yes, but these sound like fighter jets. I've been flying over here in Northern California past couple days, it seems like. Definitely there's a distinct difference between a airliner, a commercial airliner, and a fighter jet. But I've been kind of hearing that lately here. And it's not common because I don't live right next to an air base. 3153. We'll watch these other sunspots here over the coming days. All right, guys. I am going to jump off here. It's Friday. I don't know. I might, Friday. I wasn't really in the mood to barbecue, but it's Friday, so I might fire up a barbecue and enjoy the day. We got more rain coming here. Here in the Northern California, coming up pretty soon, and just for fun, we'll bring up the weather models here. I like to cover this on occasion. Low pressure system off the coast here, going to be bringing in some more much needed moisture and snow. We've got a little blob of moisture that is going to funnel into and kind of come together and produce some rain and snow here for the Northern California area. Also Southern California getting some much needed rain as well. But the mountains definitely. And this pattern actually is pretty cool. It kind of looks like we're going to stay in a little unsettled pattern. Precipitation and snow events coming down. I don't like that system dropping straight out of the north. That does bring a lot of cold air, but also drier conditions. Notice that the precipitation here just dries up as it comes down into Northern California. So hopefully that pattern will go away, and we'll get these other systems that kind of come down either from the west or slightly northwest. These systems that just drop down out of the north are very dry, but also very cold. So either way, I'm hoping that we get quite a bit. 24-hour. Let's go to the total accumulated precipitation map here, and we'll see what we got over the next few days or so. It looks decent. A lot of snowfall or precipitation up into the Sierra Nevada. This isn't snow measurements, but equivalent here in the Sacramento valleys. Oh man, see that rain shadow effect? You can see the valley. We get rain shadowed, unfortunately, but it looks like we'll be having maybe another inch, maybe inch and a half. It's not a lot. We got supposed to be between about 15 to 18 inches on average for our rainy season, and we're way behind. So I just hope this picks up. All right, guys, I'm gonna jump off here, and hope everyone enjoys their day. Again, stay safe out there. Got a whole lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. Not to mention earthquakes and volcanoes and solar weather, but other stuff as well. So stay safe. We'll chat you guys a little bit later on. Also, Mauna Loa continuing right now. There's been no major change. We'll cover that a little bit later on this evening. Those earthquakes have kind of died off there on the Big Island, But we'll cover this in a little bit more detail a little bit later on tonight. Have a good day, folks. Catch you guys a little bit later.